what happened to MMOs. Again, I am an MMO enjoyer. My favorite genre, not even close, is the only type of game I want to play. If you gave me the perfect MMO, I would never play any other video game, and I would not care. Literally. So let us see what he thinks. I have a lot of thoughts on this myself, so I think this will take a while. We'll see what happens.
If you're anything like me, odds are you've been waiting quite some time now for a new MMO to come along that's totally engrossing. Something that immediately hooks you because it's fun to play, the world is immersive, there are novel elements that make the game feel new and exciting. On top of that, all your...
Alright, so like my initial reaction right off the bat is people talk about, I think I talked about this last time as well when we talked about MMOs. I think, like right now, the MMO genre is basically people remaking World of Warcraft and trying to make it better, which is like a huge problem, right? Because, I mean, that's not innovation. And honestly, I think like the next big MMO will be in VR. I don't know what kind of VR, you know, because right now, like, technology is moving at a, I'll just say ridiculous pace, so I don't know what kind of tech we'll have, but I do think that the next big MMO is in VR. So how would that even look? Right now, who knows?
Friends are playing.
But basically, I don't think that the next World of Warcraft will be just a game.
It's the only thing you want to talk about and the only thing you care to do with your free time, and maybe even much of your not so free time as well. You know the feeling very well, actually, because it's happened to you before. You can actually look back and point to various games in your past that conjured up this exact situation. But it's been a while. Maybe
you know when a game is good? When you play the game, and then you go to bed, thinking about how you will play the game. That is when a game is good.
Too long even. And you know, that's because there are never any new MMOs coming out, right? Like we just keep playing the same games over and over again.
Oh no,
well,
no. There are hundreds of MMOs coming out. The problem is they are alive for all of 3 days.
I told you there are actually over 40 new MMOs and MMO lights being developed at this very moment. You'd probably say I'm full of it, but I'm not. Look at this list. Every single...
Throne and Liberty is literally a walking meme. Quinfall looked kind of interesting. Perfect New World, that's probably, I don't know what that's gonna be. Pantheon, I don't know what that is. Ashes of Creation might be good. Arcade 2
is confirmed to be in development.
PAX Day looked interesting. Chrono Odyssey also looked interesting.
Right now, many of them even claim
Project Triple L. Well, that's brave.
To be releasing in the next 1 to 2 years. On one hand, you could actually say there's never been a better time to be an MMO fan. I'm fairly certain, actually.
Okay, let's look at all these. Blue Protocol is also a meme, so I don't care about half of these games. Palia, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Hytale. I don't know any of these, though. Oh, Day Before. I mean, Day Before is a meme. And then these are the unannounced MMOs. Yeah, I don't know. I just want the MMO. I don't care about MMOs. I want the MMO.
There has at least never been a time where we've had so many new MMOs in active development that we were aware of. Even excluding all of the MMO lights, there are at least 30 of the more traditionally structured MMOs on the list, and there's almost certainly some games I missed or forgot. I mean, it is nuts. But at the same time, how many of these games are most of us going to be playing for more than a week or two?
Exactly.
I don't
exactly.
know. Probably not a lot of them. And boy, is that, well, that sure is something and a bit disappointing, right? Like,
yes.
From my perspective as a player, knowing full well many of the pitfalls most of these games will stumble into.
And you know what worries me the most? What worries me the most is that Amazon developed their own in-house MMO, New World, and it kind of flopped. Like, it didn't flop absolutely, but it did not do particularly well either. And it hasn't stood up well to time. That's what has me worried, you know, because there's the thing with game development. If someone makes a huge blunder, the industry in that game sort of suffers, you know, like there's not a lot of RTSs coming out, for example, because the industry just sort of, after StarCraft 2, it sort of died down a little bit, you know? I don't know.
Which being, yeah, I'll probably just play them for a few days, maybe a week.
And like MMOs are the most expensive type of game to develop.
Then I'll be done. It's really hard for that reason to get too excited for most of what we see here. I still follow it and I am interested in these games and I will check them out, don't get me wrong, but I would be pleasantly surprised if even 1 or 2 of these games actually deliver on that feeling and experience I know myself and probably many of you out there are looking for. And that is not me saying that these are necessarily going to be bad games. I don't think that. I don't think that playing a game for just a couple of weeks is even a bad thing. In fact, it's almost preferable in a lot of cases. We swim.
I don't know. I think like every MMO player knows that the best MMO experience is the very, very start, right? Where no one knows anything, everyone is thrown into this world, everything is kind of broken, everything is laggy, there are literally hundreds of people all around you. That is the MMO experience, right? And I think if you're playing with a group of friends, and your group of friends is literally just moving from one MMO to the other, I think then you probably don't really care. But I kind of want the next MMO where I can settle down in, you know? Like, I've played WoW for
ending glut of games.
All of my
there
life.
Are more new games released every
I want the
year
next
than
one.
I even have time to play. All of this added onto the backlog of games that I'll probably never find the time to get to either. And
Yes.
doing gaming,
like people get so worked up over having a backlog. My backlog of games is ridiculous. And the thing is, if you gave me the perfect MMO, I wouldn't even care.
stuff is my full-time job. People who have other full-time jobs, it's certainly even much, much worse. As I've talked about before, there's just not enough time to play all of the games, even all of the good games, let alone some of the mediocre and bad ones. So yeah, not every game needs to last forever. Most games won't. It's unrealistic. And I don't even really want that from most of my games, most of the games that I play. But man, when
Not most of them. I want just one.
one comes along
Just
that
one.
really sinks its hooks in, it is something else. I love it. It's one of the experiences that makes gaming as a hobby so very special, barring that experience also doesn't simultaneously destroy every other aspect of my life. Happens on occasion.
I've said this all the time, okay? If a game ruins your life, that game is very, very good. And if you don't think you are wasting your time by playing that game, then you are not wasting your time. If you don't feel bad about playing the game and you're having fun, you are not wasting your time. No matter what anyone tells you, you are not wasting your time.
I've been there. Don't worry, guys. I get you. And you know, from MMOs, our expectation level is certainly higher than just a few days to a week, especially with how big and expansive these games are supposed to be and how long they spend in development. We go in wanting a lot more than that, but the fact of the matter is most things won't deliver that.
Yeah, 'cause
even
I mean,
if most games could, you would only play but a fraction of them. So we are just looking for those pinnacle experiences in gaming to come.
Yeah, because like for me, I know for a lot of people, for example, if you look at games like Black Desert, right? I feel like the core appeal of Black Desert is the combat. And the combat is great. The combat is excellent. But to me, like the experience of an MMO is really the sort of community that develops within it. And for that, you need a lot of people who play for a long time, right? So a lot of these sort of when an economy develops and you start trading things and there's a lot of this interaction that is based around game mechanics and these wacky things happen because of game mechanics, you know? With a lot of these games that sort of last 2 weeks, you would never even get to that MMO phase. It's kind of a single player RPG with other people, you know, with other people as the backdrop.
Along. So realistically, looking at that list that I showed you earlier, yes, I don't expect many of these games will keep me around for very long. Most of this list I will play for a few days to a week to check them out, to have my fun or not have fun, and then I'll move on. Will any of them last longer than that? I don't know. I mean, even if I had to make a prediction, it is very hard to tell. You really just never know what game will come along at just the right time with just the right elements to be something that you sink your teeth into. That sort of guess.
I think with an MMO, at this point, I think we'll know. I have a feeling that when a game comes out, and it's... But maybe not. I don't know.
Work is what investors
MMOs
do
are
all
weird.
day professionally, deciding where to place their money, where to put their bets on which game will become the next Minecraft, the next Fortnite, the next Call of Duty, you name it. It ain't easy to predict this kind of thing. If it was, we'd have a whole lot more millionaires. It's even harder with indie games. Like, very few people predicted the success of, say, Valheim.
Yeah,
or
that's what I'm
Vampires.
saying, right? Like, with these sorts of games, they just pop off out of nowhere, right? And that's sort of the thing that sets MMOs apart. MMOs, by default, are Goliaths in terms of costs, in terms of people involved, in terms of marketing, in terms of dev time. MMOs are huge. And that's why I sort of want to say that I think we'll know. Like, when we hear about a game, I think we'll know that something is changing. But, like, it's hard to say. It is really hard to say. Because, for example, like Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV was always very popular. But when WoW messed up, oh boy, did Final Fantasy pop off. And I think Final Fantasy has, like, benefited a lot from World of Warcraft messing up. So if a game can come in and just do something slightly better than those games, we could suddenly see a mass exodus out of just the blue. I don't know, though. It's hard to say.
Ahead of time, but when they launched and people got to play and word got around, it was immediately pretty clear that there was something special there. The safest bets, like if we're playing it safe, it's always going to be some of those big budget games,
exactly,
AAA games.
Exactly.
They, at the very least, tend to have a better than average chance when it comes to many of the crowdfunded
it's
or
just too
indie
big
MMOs on the list here. As we all know, though, AAA budget doesn't always mean AAA gameplay experience. It just sets the bar a little higher. For
Absolutely, it's just the scale that they can realistically pull off with a AAA budget. Like, again, this is an MMO, you know?
From the visuals, from the animation quality, from the size of the world, from the game's polish, all of those things, the bar is just a little higher.
I don't even think graphics are at all important. If you look at, like, BattleBit, I even tweeted this out as well, right? I had this sort of thought that, what if the next MMO is basically Minecraft graphics? What if the next big MMORPG just takes us back to the fundamental blocks, or, like, voxel-based, or something like that? Just so they can push the tech to its limit, right? So we can have literally hundreds of people on screen, etc. I don't think graphics matter. So maybe the next one might be something super basic, but I don't know. I think for MMOs, it's sort of the scale and the depth of the systems that indies just kind of don't have the resources to pull off. You know, I think it's as simple as that. And that's not even mentioning, like, server costs and everything.
For that reason, yes, it's got a better chance. And it's for that reason that I've got higher hopes for a lot of these unannounced MMOs from the bigger studios. We're talking Riot Games, League of...
It's the MMO hype cycle. The less you know about a game, the better it is.
Of Legends-based MMO,
yeah.
The MMO from the Elder Scrolls.
That's why the Riot MMO is the best MMO right now, because we literally know nothing about it.
Online Studios,
it's the best game.
Online Studios, they're making a brand new MMO. We've got the Horizon-themed MMO from Sony. We've got Blizzard's survival game, and then there's the laugh if you want, but yes, the Amazon Lord of the Rings MMO. Hey man, if they can take parts of New World and craft that into a Lord of the Rings setting and just make it better, I mean, again, like with most of these games, I'll definitely check it out. That said, any of these could fail miserably. Again, because AAA budget doesn't mean AAA user end experience. It could be garbage, and a few of these likely will fail miserably. Don't say Amazon. Okay, fine, you can say Amazon. They deserve it. But again, I would say that I have better than average.
I've heard a lot of good things about New World, like, since it came out, that it's gotten better. But I think I've talked about this before as well, but I just don't like New World on a fundamental level. I just don't vibe with it.
These games, compared to the slew of the crowdfunded and indie MMOs that are on the list. I will say I do also have some hopes for a lot of these MMO lights. Some of them I think are quite promising. Near the top would be Dune Awakening. I love Warframe enough to be very interested in what they do with Soulframe. And I also think Nightingale seems pretty darn promising. That one's very narrowly made this list of what we call an MMO. But anyways, just about every MMO light actually that you see here, I am interested in playing for at least a little while. When it comes to that main list, though, of those confirmed, more what we would consider traditional MMOs, ones that kind of live up to the general infrastructure and what we think of as a classic MMORPG like World of Warcraft and everything in that vein, that main list of 30 or so games, I mean, that is a massive grab bag. It's really hard to say. I do expect a majority of them will fall into the couple of weeks.
A majority of them will be pay to win. I think some of them are published by, like, what's it called? I don't remember what its name, but when I see it, I'm always like, okay, I'm not playing this game. Like, a lot of them will have terrible monetization. A lot of them will have zero support. A lot of them will be, it's just going to be a mess.
Pops category. That's what I would expect, with maybe a few of them breaking through beyond that. But I don't have a ton of long-term hope for most of these, unfortunately enough to say. Yes, even the online MMO fanboy poster child that is Ashes of Creation, even that, I mean, I hope it's good, but like, I don't know.
Ashes of Creation, the one thing Ashes of Creation gets 100% of my respect on is the fact that they are going in with a clear vision. They are giving the players a lot of what they want. Like, a lot of changes have been made purely based on what people say, but a lot of things are not changing. They have made up their mind, and they're just like, no, this is how the game will be, and you will like it. If you don't like it, then this is just not the game for you. This isn't we will try to give you everything and eventually fail because we just do everything all at once and there is absolutely no vision and the game falls apart. I think there are a lot of things that Ashes of Creation has already done, in terms of PvP specifically, that are very different from how current MMOs look like, particularly in the West. We'll see though. We'll see though. For me, Ashes currently has the highest probability of success, and it is also the game I am most interested in personally.
I'm really not placing my bets as of yet that it's going to be like a savior of the
Yes.
genre. It will be probably a niche popular game for at least a few months for
I
that
hope so.
crowd. 1, 2, 5 years down the road, is it going to maintain a sizable player base?
I
Who
hope
knows?
so.
But who knows with most of this stuff? It is all just guesswork. But I mean, I hope
I wouldn't bet
they're
on
all
any of
good.
this.
I hope every game's good. Every game on this list. Surprise me, please. All be amazing, pinnacle MMO experience.
This is what I always say. I don't place bets on games. I don't care what the game is. If a game comes in and kills World of Warcraft, I could not be happier. Because it'll be a good game.
That's not going to happen, but I would love it. So,
Same.
how do we get here? Like,
I
seriously,
want-
we got
I
a
want
list of
the
40
next thing.
MMOs, a good chunk of which launching in the next 1 to 2 years, and many of these games took, anywhere from 5 to 7 to, like I said, over 10 years to develop, and I'm not expecting a vast majority of them to last me more than a couple of weeks of playtime. Well, there's a lot of reasons and a lot of ways and explanations to how we got there. I'm sure you've seen the slew of
What's
YouTube
this?
video essays
I don't like
talking
this.
about why gaming today sucks. The videos that basically more or less boil down to, hey, things were kind of better when I was a child.
Okay.
I had fewer responsibilities. Well, yeah.
What I was going to say is that a lot of people, including myself, often fall into this place of gaming used to be better. I think that is kind of coping, because I think gaming used to be better because we were kids with zero responsibilities and everything was better. You know all those videos, it is 3 a.m., you're playing Minecraft and it's summer outside and it's raining? That is called nostalgia. And I think that's a lot of what we seem to remember about gaming and not actually the games themselves.
Yeah, no duh. When it comes to this particular topic of gaming sucks today, I am not a full
Monetization nowadays is very predatory, though. That is, like, indisputable. Monetization of games is worse across the board, and it's not even close.
blown doomer on this discussion point. I think gaming is still amazing, and in fact, in many ways, a lot better than it's ever been. The quality and the
Yes.
expansiveness of so many games. There's a lot of high-quality games coming on every single year, and it's a real exciting time to play and be a fan of this.
Like, one of the most prominent examples with this, right, is, like, you look at GTA 5. GTA 5 is an incredible game. Like, if you think GTA 5 is not just a feat of engineering, then you're coping, okay? But at the same time, GTA 5 has been out for 10 years. Rockstar back in the day released 3 GTA titles within, like, what? I think it's like 2 or 3 years. It was ridiculous, right? And that's sort of the double-edged sword of what we're dealing with right now. I think games are better than they've ever been, but it's not that simple, you know? If you look at games like Elden Ring, for example, Elden Ring is an excellent game. You gave them the money, you got the game, done. That's it. You gave them money, got the game, finished. And the same goes for every single indie game out there. The indie scene right now can only exist because of where we are currently. With how accessible, like, dev tools are, the indie scene has popped off. And that did not happen back in the day, you know? I think to an extent, there is a reason why Minecraft really, really popped off, because it was the first big indie game, you know? Whereas now we have, like, hundreds of them. So, I don't think... Like, I don't fall in the camp of gaming is worse now, but I think there are many aspects of it that are terrible compared to where we were 15 years ago. Or 10 years ago.
Hobby, and as I mentioned
complicated.
earlier, there are way
It's
too many
complicated.
good games that you just don't have time to play. There are so many games that people rave about, that
Yes.
people are obsessed with, that people play for years and
Also, exclusivity sucks. Let's get rid of exclusivity.
years on end that I've barely or never touched, and likely...
Yes.
I know
I would love
will
to play Final
eventually
Fantasy
go to the
16.
grave never touching a lot of these amazing games. So we can't say that gaming sucks, because it's just an expanding library, except for the ones that get shut down. That's another video, right? I would say that in general.
Oh my god,
gaming
did you see
is
this?
in a-
There was a paper posted about, like, I think it was like 13% of all video games released on consoles are, like, archived, and you will actually be able to play them. Like 80-something% of games will literally be lost to time. That is scary.
really good spots. But yes, in a lot of ways, many parts of it do suck, or at the least,
Yes.
gaming and how we approach gaming and the games industry,
Yes.
it's quite different than
It's very
how
different.
it was when we were weak kinders. Games in general are different. If I were to try to distill it into like one
hell was
sentiment, games used to feel distill it. Games in general are different.
Okay.
If I were to try to distill it into like one sentiment, I would say that games used to feel like games developed primarily for the sake of delivering an experience to the player.
I know exactly what he's going to say. Now they're a product.
They would sell you, yes, this was always a business typically.
Oh,
There
yeah,
would be a
obviously.
single upfront cost, maybe later they would sell expansions. So yes, you had to pay, of course, but the game still felt like it came first for a long time, for much of my childhood and my
Well, I think a lot
adolescence.
of this just came down to technology, right? Because back in the day when you printed a game, that was it. You sold the game, and like it was a positive feedback loop because you made a good game. You made a good game, you sold it, and that was it. You could no longer touch it. So what you had to do is you had to sell a good product. And because you sold a good product, well, next time you're like, well, they sold me a good game, right? So the next game they release, well, I'll buy that as well. Nowadays, you don't really need to do that. Now you can release a game that is sort of, 50-50, and then you could put out a patch and say, well, we fixed it. And then the internet is like, well, great, you fixed it. Now I don't care. But you still released kind of a broken game, So I think a lot of this just comes down to the fact that we have like ongoing updates and everything like that, right? And that sort of pushes deadlines back, and then the suits come in, and that's where everything starts.
And even when I was
And also monetization is just worse.
a young adult, many
not talk
games
about that.
today feel a lot more like they're just vehicles for monetization, with the hope being for like the MMO
I don't
live
play any of
service
these
genres
games.
that you
I
will
literally
stick
don't.
around and keep playing and paying more over
I do
time.
not.
Now, sure, they
Any game where I open the game and the first thing I see is a store, I'm not playing that game. I'm not even kidding. Literally not playing it.
still need to
I'm no.
make a game that you enjoy that keeps you around playing in
Like,
order
think about
to
it.
monetize.
You open Minecraft, single player, multiplayer, options, quit. That's a game. You open, I don't know, like even recently, like Halls of Torment. I bought it for €4. You jump in the game, that's the game. That's how a game should be. I don't want a shop button in my game.
You further, but monetization being at the forefront of the entire endeavor, I think has left a lot of modern games feeling that very way. Like it permeates into the design and bleeds into the user experience. And this
Just 24 hours. Just 24 hours for the skin. Don't miss it. Don't miss it.
isn't some anti-business, anti-profit rant either. People got to get paid. It's how these things get made in the first place, even back
Exactly.
in the day. But I will say that it did feel in the past like the games were being made primarily by people who loved gaming and wanted to craft their own unique experiences for other people who love gaming to enjoy.
I think game developers still absolutely love what they do, but it's not them, Like they don't make the decision. That's the problem. I don't think you'll find a single game dev who doesn't love what they do, And also I think with monetization, I think a lot of it just comes down to the increasing scope of games. Even like now, there was controversy with Baldur's Gate, right? Where people are like saying, don't take this as a new standard for games because it's just like it's something no one else can replicate, just because of how big it is, And that's where sort of the monetization argument comes in. Because game prices across the board, now people are moving to 70 and 80 euros, right? But for the longest time, all games have been $60 or 60 euros. And that's been a thing for like 10 years. I remember buying games for 60 euros when I was like 12, So, technically speaking, the fundamental cost of the game hasn't changed, but the scope of the game has increased infinitely. So, you kind of need to monetize it somehow. But I'd be more than fine with paying a higher price and not paying for weird things in my games, because the weird things in the games usually create a profit incentive to put even more weird things in the games, which ultimately ruins the game.
Now, though, because the industry is so massive,
NES games were $60 in the mid-90s. Exactly. And like account for like inflation, like what is $60 nowadays? It's like nothing.
it's like the biggest entertainment industry, bar none, right? It feels like most of the people involved in the endeavor of making games are just here for the buck. And no, I'm not talking about the developers at
Exactly, I
all.
was
It's
about
well
to-
known, in fact,
yes.
game dev pays far below what most of these people could make if they went into other industries. But whatever their passion is for the hobby and for the craft,
I don't know how true this is, but I heard what's it called? Like programmers, like working in game dev is just cutting your salary in half, basically. I don't know how true this is. This is something I've just heard like down the grapevine.
of making games, it does seem like it gets pushed to the wayside when the higher-ups, the ones paying the bills, chime in to what sort of systems the game needs to have, what methods they need to employ to keep people playing.
And this is business myopia. If these people realize that they can make literally 20 times more money if they just release a good product and monetize it fairly for a long time, oh boy, you know that picture of like the year 3000? If X was to happen, that's what would happen. If people just realize they can make money long term and make a lot more money long term instead of trying to get as much cash as they can out of like a single month.
When they're hiring psychologists to develop these properly paced out intermittent reward schedules to keep us on that dopamine drip, to keep us playing,
Log
to
in
keep
daily.
us swiping the card.
24 hours remain.
Boy, lots of fun, yeah? The systems games need to have, the methods they use to keep us playing, and how they're going to cash in on all of that. It is a big part of the reason, and like I said, it really bleeds into the experience of the game and takes away from the game itself.
And again, like my favorite genre, fantasy RPGs, fantasy MMOs, right? And when in a fantasy MMO, I see a huge disclaimer for a freaking shop item. I'm sorry, I'm not in a fantasy world anymore. I'm in a supermarket. Come on. And like the same goes for like login rewards and like these daily streaks and whatnot. Like I want to play a fantasy game. I don't want to think about logging on daily and doing my job, you know?
It is why when something like Elden Ring comes along, it feels like a breath of fresh air for so many people.
Elden Ring was just a complete game.
It felt like I was stepping back in time. I just got a game. The game was great. I played the game.
You know how I said about Minecraft? Single player, multiplayer, settings, exit. Elden Ring. Start game, load game, settings, exit. That's the game.
Damn. What year is it? What year did Elden Ring come out? 2000? Of course, there's a lot of things that made Elden Ring great. There are plenty of YouTube video essays about that very topic. All of those things combined with the simplicity of the transaction. I give you money, you give me good game. I enjoy good game and have fun. Nice doing business with you.
Exactly. Nice doing business with you. See you next time. Simple as that. Pleasure doing business with you. See you in a couple of years.
No cash shop,
Perfect.
No further monetization, no season pass, none of that stuff. It's just the game. The game's there. The UI isn't intrusive.
And obviously, it is important to note, because I dunk on monetization a lot, Elden Ring is not a live service game. Live service games are different, which is why I say the subscription model is the best model. I will pay for a subscription to an MMO for the rest of my life if you give me the perfect MMO.
Trying to get me to go to the shop. I'm not logging in and seeing 17
don't put weird stuff
pop-ups
in my
that show
game.
me the recent activities that I can, some of which pay money for. It's just a game that I hop in and I play. And all of that combined with Elden Ring being a good game, oh man, it was definitely a big part of, at least, again, speaking personally, what made the experience of playing Elden Ring feel so refreshing.
Eve's fairly close to a perfect MMO. I've never gone into Eve. I'm waiting for the video. Down the Rabbit Hole is making a. I think he said the video is like 5 hours long or something about Eve. Eve is one of those games where I just like peering in from the outside, just because I don't like space games. I just don't like space games at all. So I don't really care how good of an MMO it is, to be honest. I'm a fantasy nerd. You give me fantasy, sign me up. I don't like space, though. Space is kind of boring in games for me. It's just an endless vastness of nothing. You know? I don't like that. I want a glowing sword, a big bear, and a big demon knight with a big hammer. That's what I want.
Against the sea of modern game design. Beyond games being different, the internet's different as well. For one, it didn't actually really exist when I first started gaming. So if I wanted news or info on the latest NES game, I had to typically get that from a magazine in most.
You know what the worst part about video games now is? The fact that they're solved even before they come out. Looking at you, Blizzard. Can we please stop with public test realms? Get QA staff. Test the game in-house. I do not want to play an RPG that has been solved 3 months before the RPG comes out.
Most cases. Eventually, yeah, we got home internet, but gaming sites were a rare commodity. Usually what we were talking about were like fan pages. I made pages on Angel Fire for like Warcraft 3, or going to forums where...
Like, don't get me wrong, I am a turbo nerd. If there is a right way to play the game, I will. Don't tell me, just don't look it up. No, that is not how I play games. I want to play the game optimally. If the information is out there, I will use it. I just want to find that information myself, you know? If someone has made a literal tier list of things I need to look at, again, 3 months before the game comes out, I don't want to play that game. You know, like the fact that my first instinct when playing Diablo was just like going on Wowhead and looking up a build. I don't want to do that.
People would just talk about the games that they enjoyed. But today, with the constant internet access, with our phones in our pockets, how you learn about games, how you follow updates, how you get news, the guides, the tips, the full playthroughs on YouTube.
I want a game where like they drop an update and you literally don't even know what's in the game. That's what I want. I want a game where we crowdsource information. That's what I want. I don't want for you to tell me literally everything that's in the update.
Learning about data mined information and leaks from YouTube videos, streamers who are speed rushing and beating the game in the first day.
I don't even care about that because I can also do that. If I want to, I will ruin my life over a video game. I will. So if there are streamers playing the game 16 hours per day and figuring it out, that's fine. That is at least organic. That's organic
entire world to
exploration.
See the arc of first hearing about a game to when you actually sit down and play the game. It is way, way different now than it was, say, back when I was a kid and I walked down to my friend's house and he told me about this new game called EverQuest that his mom just bought him for his birthday.
I don't know how old he is, but this is true even for me.
And then I sat down for 8 hours watching him play and enjoyed every minute. The way we consume gaming as a hobby, the way we follow gaming as a hobby is way different. It's way more tuned in and is way more oversaturated. And I think that also plays a big role to the enjoyment that we get the moment we actually get to sit down and finally play the game. But just as, if not even in many ways more important, in my opinion, is the fact that yes, games are different. The games industry is different. Yes, the presence of the internet is different. But lastly, we're different. The way that we approach games, the way we consume games, and what we expect from games today compared to when we were younger is just vastly different in most every measure. The frequency.
Again, this is sort of the fundamental difference in a lot of people. I keep saying I want the MMO, you know? Whereas a lot of people say they don't care. They're going to play an MMO for a week and then they move on. I don't want to do that. I want to sink my teeth into the next big game. And that's just a fundamental difference in how sort of people look at the games. Whereas back in the day, you literally didn't have the luxury of doing that. Like there was World of Warcraft and there was everything else. That was your choice. Either you play World of Warcraft or you sort of play everything else on the side. And it wasn't close. It wasn't even close. Now, I mean, even if you take only the two big ones, sort of tab targeting MMOs, right? You already have WoW, you have FF14, and then if you look at isometric games, you have like Lost Ark. In first person, you have like New World. Is New World first person? I think it's first person. Maybe it's third person. I don't know. I don't care about New World. There's a lot of MMOs, is what I'm saying. Back in the day, there literally weren't.
The intensity, the speed. We're all also just better at games today than we were in the past, which you would hope, obviously, for those of us who have racked up like decades of experience in the hobby. As we learned not too long ago with the release of Classic WoW, World of Warcraft wasn't a...
Classic World of Warcraft's hard. What do you mean?
Terribly difficult game. It's just that at the time when we started playing in 2004, everything sucked.
Like, our computers were horrible. Our internet connection was horrible. We probably didn't even use voice comms. It was just bad.
Computers sucked and struggled to maintain a good frame rate, causing us to always stand in the fire. The internet sucked, causing frequent lag spikes.
The servers lagged.
And yes, we sucked. We were just bad at playing MMOs and probably bad at playing games in general. And for today, all of that has improved. The games run better, well, for the most part.
Like, if you don't believe this, a friend of mine, like one of our kids, I don't know how old he is. I think he's like 12 or 13, and he was playing a game on his phone, and his fingers were moving so fast, it was scary. I think he was playing like something like Fortnite on his phone. His fingers are moving so ridiculously fast, I felt like an old man, you know? People do literally just get better at things on a fundamental level, you know? And that's the same thing for games in general. I think people are just better at games. It's literally that simple.
Barring any bad PC ports. Internet speeds are way better, so we've got steady connections more of the time. And we also have nearly 20 more years time playing games than we did when we first booted up vanilla World of Warcraft. With time comes experience.
Yes.
With that experience comes a loss.
I don't even think it's like experience on an individual level. I think like the baseline for knowledge with video games in general is just higher, you know?
Novelty. As far as I'm concerned, lack of novelty is one of the primary driving factors to why so many people can say that gaming isn't fun anymore compared to when it was when they were younger. The more games you play, the more you see. The more you see, the less novel new game experiences are. Let me ask you,
this extends to literally everything. You know why people say that there is no good anime? Because every single anime is sort of building on the foundation that is already there. Same goes for games. If you know the pattern, everything is boring because you can boil down everything to its absolute fundamentals. That anime fight, well, yeah, they're gonna win in the first act, then get defeated in the second act, then win in the third act. It's every single fight ever, you know. And if you know that, and you can't look past that, then everything will be boring. Same goes for games. You sort of need a fundamental shift to change something.
You ever found yourself sitting down and playing a game for the first time and thinking, feels like I've already played this?
Exactly.
It's partially true because so many games borrow ideas, structure, gameplay, systems, and features from one another that many times they all start to bleed together. And when
I mean, there are people who play FIFA, unironically, the same game every year. So I don't know what's going on with them. But for me, I haven't played an Assassin's Creed in years. I only look at them online, and I'm like, okay, this looks kind of interesting. I may get it on sale at some point. Every Assassin's Creed at this point is the same exact game.
things aren't novel, it is very hard to keep you engaged and to hold your attention. We crave variety and novelty, just in general, but this also applies to our hobbies and gaming. And both of these things are massive drivers in the motivation and desire to continue to pursue something, to, in this case, continue playing a game, to stay engaged and spend more time with it. And the fact is, the more experience you have, the more games you've played, the harder
Everything
and harder
seems
it
generic.
becomes
Exactly.
for new games to surprise you. Because,
I mean,
yes, in most
you
cases...
always see people, like, a lot of people say this unironically, right? Not unironically, but ironically, or jokingly. Like, oh, this is just like X, this is just like Y. And, you know, it's sort of a joke, but it's also true. Because because you see these similarities, it sort of already speaks to just how much sort of experience we have going into these games, right? Where this is an X clone, you know?
You have seen it all before. Even if you sit down and a brand new one of the games on this list, a brand new MMO.
Like the clearest example, look at the discourse surrounding Diablo and Path of Exile. The only thing you will hear is, this is how it is in Path of Exile. No, this is how it is in Diablo. Diablo is not meant to be Path of Exile. Well, Path of Exile is more complex, Path of Exile is better. Well, Diablo isn't that. Well, it's literally just like constantly comparing the two, you know? Whereas back in the day, there was no Path of Exile, there was just Diablo.
Just launches, you sit down for the first
That's
time.
like just one example.
You're probably going to get some serious deja vu. You're going to think, oh boy, I've already done this fetch quest. I've already spoke to this NPC. I've already gone through this training. I've already fought this boss. You haven't technically, but you may as well have, because it's all so similar enough to one another to might as well be the same. And it is really with that.
To an extent, that's also I think why WoW is struggling right now, because even though Dragonflight is a really, really good expansion, I think with Dragonflight there's a very long conversation to be had around like what Shadowlands did, because I do think Shadowlands was very, very bad for the game, and the consequences of that are still lasting. But I also think the patch structure is basically the same thing over and over and over and over. Because like I know the game is good, but I just don't want to play it because it's literally the same thing. You know, nothing has changed in like the past 4 years. It's just gotten old. It's not bad. It's just the same thing. You know. It is better, but it's still the same thing. And that's why I say, I think the next big thing will be in VR. I don't know what kind of VR, but I think it's going to be in VR.
That in mind, and the key importance the novelty plays into getting enjoyment out of gaming, it is because of that, I try to remember some newly released game that feels super old hat to me is going to be some kid's first time with the genre, first time with a game type, first time with features and mechanics that will leave a lasting impression on that person. And I find it helpful when it comes to trying to enjoy games and trying to continue to enjoy the hobby after so many years, doubly so being that this has been my career, following games and playing games for coming up on 13 years now.
It hasn't been my career, but it might as well be.
I've spent a lot of time playing games. I've spent a lot of time talking about games, a lot of time covering games to try to really continue to enjoy it after all this time. Even if everything isn't entirely novel, it can be tough, but I think mindset does play a big, big role. As for these upcoming MMOs, the games on the list that we talked about here today, I'll obviously still hope that the developers themselves, the ones in charge of creating these games, do.
You're saying you're spitting absolute truths. Anthem, it had the tools to be a great game, but it wasn't. The gameplay felt great. There was just very little to do with that great gameplay. Exactly. And like that's exactly it. You know, you need novelty, and you need to do everything. That's what I'm saying. Like with these sorts of games, it's so hard. Because you need to do something novel, but you still need to do everything that games are doing right now to compete with them. It's
You managed to craft something to create an engaging, immersive, and a novel enough experience
Anthem
that
is
even
just like a
someone
case study.
as jaded old gamer as myself can be entertained with for at least some time. Although I still, of course, hope that every once in a while we get a game that comes along that does really craft a super unique experience that rekindles some of that flame.
Like, you know what?
Has
You know what I unironically think? I unironically think that there are two things currently that exist that are sort of a potential glimpse into something great. Are you ready for this? Number one, VR chat. I think the fact that it is basically if you've seen Ready Player One, I don't want to use the word metaverse because it's cringy, but it is basically a metaverse, right? It's like hopping between worlds. Obviously, VR chat is very, very janky. It is very bare bones, but the idea of VR chat, I think it's huge. The fact that you can jump between worlds and it's just this seamless thing is great. VR chat, number one thing that I think has a ton of potential. The idea of it. And the other one is Roblox. I am not kidding. I honestly want to go, like, have you seen the videos of the games people make in Roblox? I think I need to play Roblox. The things people make in that game, they look better than, like, Call of Duty. How do they do that? I thought Roblox was just those small little dudes. Apparently not. And that's the thing. It is a hub of games that you can play seamlessly. That is insane to me. And if you could do something like that with like Unreal Engine based games, that would be insane. I mean, that's basically the metaverse, what they tried to do, you know, but just actually working, I guess. But I think it's just like, I think there needs to be a fundamental shift for this next big thing to happen.
to sort of go back to the first time we experienced whatever your equivalent to World of Warcraft is to me. And I also want to say, if you were struggling with finding games that keep you engaged and games that you're interested in, and you're not wanting to go back to games that you've already played, look no further than games that other people rave about. I think that a lot of times we look on the horizon to what games that haven't been released that are upcoming, and we put a lot of hope in those while neglecting
the life cycle of an MMO gamer. It's just a couple more years.
a lot of these super popular games with huge fan bases, games that are
I've been waiting for the past
acclaimed,
decade.
games that are cult classics. There's a lot of games out there I know for myself that I've yet to touch that people rave about, and I'm sure you're the same way too in the MMO genre and in other genres. And if you're having a hard time finding motivation and finding excitement in gaming, try checking those games out. Try checking those older games that a lot of people, you've heard people speak about over the years that you just never got around to playing. That's probably my best advice for
like this
you,
is a
but
very
also
very good trend, actually, like unironically a good trend on Twitter, where people do these sort of year-long media tags, because that sort of gives you an incentive to go back and play other things, watch other things, and experience other things, because you want to tweet about it. It's like, oh hey, look at this, I've played 3 more games this year, you know, and I've played this, that, and this, and it just creates this list, and you're sort of gamifying finding experiences, which I think is healthy. I don't do that because I want the next big MMO. So, but you do that. You do that. I think it's good for you.
for myself. That said, we keep our fingers crossed and we hope for the best for the new stuff on the horizon, and we'll see which games on this list deliver. That does it for me today. Thank you guys for watching this video.
Very good
Hope you
video.
enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.
Very good video. I'll link it in chat, and I want to go back. It was somewhere at the start, right? Oh my god, I've spent 45 minutes talking about a 20-minute video. What is wrong with me? But yeah, basically, my thesis statement here is that I think we need a VR game, or we need a game that is sort of a hub for other experiences, right? So fundamentally, it would still be an MMO, but it would sort of be an MMO that is based on the notion that you can hop between worlds, if you will, right? So as much as I hate using it as an example, it would be something like Roblox that has like 100 million games, 100 million different games, or something like VR Chat, which also has like a bajillion different things you can do in it. And that would be sort of an MMO with technically infinite experiences. It would only have to be very, very polished, right? And the VR argument, I think that's pretty clear. Project AK, War of Dragonorox, I don't know what that is. Legends of Ymir. This is Norse. I want to play this. Blue Protocol. I was excited for Blue Protocol, but it's a meme. Apparently, like, again, the game is basically solved before it has even come out. Apparently, Blue Protocol has like extremely bad gearing, and it's just not great. Past Fate, Into the Echo, Camelot Unchained, Night Crows, Tarisland, Project Triple L. Again, this is very brave. Titling your game triple L. Imagine if you take an L. It'll be bad. Odin Valhalla Rising. That sounds interesting. Ashfall, Chrono Odyssey. Chrono Odyssey is basically the Dark Souls MMO. That looked interesting. PAX Day. PAX Day was also interesting because of how big it looked. Though the company seemed to be kind of indie, and the scope of the MMO seemed kind of impossible for me. So we'll see where that goes. Arcade 2. Oh my god, you have no idea how... Oh my god, Arcade 1 was such a good game, but it was so bad. Arcade 1 still has the greatest ships in any MMO of all time. It's not even close. The fact that you could sail into an open ocean and fight big monsters, it was so cool. It was so cool. But the game was so bad, it was completely pay to win. Alright, Ashes of Creation, Pantheon, Perfect New World, Quinfall, Throne of Liberty. Okay. Amazon Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I have literally no idea what this could be. You know? Like, it could be a huge success, but it could also be a complete flop. And honestly, I've got no idea. The Riot MMO. I put a lot of stock in the Riot MMO currently. I think they have a... I've talked about it before, basically. ZeniMax MMO. I don't know what this is. ZeniMax... Oh, so this is from the developers of The Elder Scrolls Online. Okay. Okay, so that might be interesting. Blizzard Survival MMO. Honestly, the Blizzard Survival MMO might be really, really good. Because basically, from what I understand, like a lot of the inspiration for this game came from the developers really, really liking Valheim. So that's very good. That is very good. And Sony Horizon MMO. We don't know. I think we're going to hear about the Blizzard Survival MMO during this BlizzCon. So we will convene back here in November. We will watch the stream, and we will probably see it. MMO Lights, I don't care about. I don't care that much about MMO Lights, except Hytale and Palia. These are two games that I sort of care about. The Day Before is a meme. If The Day Before is a real game, then I'll be very surprised. But yes, basically, games are kind of bad now, but also kind of not, because it's kind of our fault. We are very different. That said, MMOs should not be solved before they come out, and also, we are going in either into VR, or basically what is an actual, unironic version of the metaverse. That is the future vision from Yaboy. We'll see. For a modern MMO to survive, it would have to do things radically differently. That trend is to single-player community. Fetch quests won't cut it anymore. Absolutely, you are 1,000,000% right. People who think solo content in MMOs is bad have no idea what they're talking about. Literally no idea what they're talking about. Literally 80% of people play MMO solo. A modern MMO needs to walk a very thin line between pushing people to engage so that it doesn't become a World of Warcraft situation, right? In World of Warcraft, you only need to team up for raids and dungeons. And even then, you could use the group finder, you know? You don't really need to know any people. But you need to have a lot of solo content because people play solo for most of the time. Honestly, there was a tweet about this. There was a tweet about this that was very, very funny, goofy. Someone said, like, people play MMOs alone. And I basically responded, wait, you mean you play MMOs only with friends? Because that sounds like a scheduling nightmare. Can you imagine playing together with more than a couple of people regularly? And like, you're just like, okay, none of my friends are online. We are not going to play together. No MMOs today. I mean, that's not playing a game. That is like, okay, let us schedule a meeting on Wednesday, 8 to 10 p.m. Okay? Okay. Like, no. An MMO needs to have an absolute boatload of solo content. Honestly, if you ask me, I think the best social content in an MMO are things like housing, which sort of bring people together because they're all working together for a single permanent thing, right? It's not like a raid with gear or anything. It is an actual permanent, tangible thing that you can always see and show off. It is like a house. It's like a mount even, something like that. It's those social experiences that come from working towards something for a long time and then having it be permanent and actually matter. Not like World of Warcraft gear, which will replace in a month. You know?